And that's the 3, 2, 1 countdown for Friday. Wow, what a week! What a week! What a week we've had. Rainy, gloomy, dreary, in Northern Virginia right now. I do have my cup of Illy coffee. Again, first world problems here. Still don't have a red cup other than this Cardinals one. Because on Friday we were red. I thought we'd have a red cup too. So welcome this morning, crew. We have a packed lineup for you on a Friday. Because it's Friday, tonight is trivia night. Finished up the last of the questions. I want to, it's a challenge to make sure that I have enough questions in there that kind of fall across all the range. I want to make sure that you're challenged. No one likes easy trivia night, but no one likes missing every single question either. So, got it kind of laid out. 40 questions tonight. Acronyms, questions, movie trivia clips. Trivia night is on tonight. Got a message back from Mike Bravo, the champ. He's running. He's the king of the joint right now. Trivia king, paratrooper. We'll find out. Does he maintain his title tonight, or can someone usurp the king? We'll see. We'll see what happens tonight in that. Looking forward to it. It was a fun time. Grab a beer or two. I think, it's about an hour long, so maybe we'll put a bio break in the middle. Maybe we'll have a halftime bio break so people can keep at it. So let's take a look at what's going on in the news. DoD front and center. Our DoD is constantly under attack. Consistently, people targeting the Department of Defense. That's the way of the world. That's always been the way of the world. DoD has a pretty robust security staff. It's pretty detailed and pretty deep, but a lot of the contractors don't, and that's what we found out years ago. Is a lot of the attackers and the nation-state folks are coming at the DoD through defense contractors. And sometimes you can go to a contractor of a contractor, those downstream contractors. Keep moving until you find someone that's supporting the DoD in some way, shape, or form that is not secure. NIST kind of took care of this a couple years ago, or shouldn't say took care of it, built a framework, extended the framework, 171 DoD, SP 800-171, extended some controls from the NIST framework, cybersecurity framework, risk management framework, control catalog into the contractor space. If you're doing contracts for DoD, you got to do that. Britain is finding out that they're getting the same thing. Interserve, one of Britain's Ministry of Defense contractors, is their most recent company to be hacked. Looks like about 100,000 people's data has been stolen, employees of this company. So, again, so important to have people in this field. I focus kind of on stuff going on here in the United States. That's not always the case. This is a global issue. Great Britain's getting it now. It's not, obviously, this is not the first attack. There's a bunch listed in the article. This article looks like it's by Cyware Social. But Cyware Hacker News. Again, as always, I'll throw the link down below. You guys can check it out. So the point here, keep working on your security chops. Keep your skills up. Not only does the DoD need you. If you're in one of these other countries, their Department of Defense needs you. Downstream contractors need you. The government, the critical infrastructure, manufacturers, everyone needs cybersecurity now. So this is a great field to be in. You'll earn your pay, that's for sure. But it looks like for the near future, there will be more than enough work to go around. So again, the big point here is when an organization gets secure enough, and we're going to say like the Department of Defense in this case, or the Ministry of Defense in Great Britain's case, once they get their environment secure enough, then you need to start worrying about your third-party providers. your third-party contractors. These are organizations that are going to support you, and they may have an environment that is less secure than you. So TPRM, third-party risk management, is one of the newer terms. It's not brand new, but it's fairly new. It allows an organization to require their third parties to meet certain security requirements. So it's one of the things we see, and this is why the bad guy's not going to go after you if you're secure. They're going to go after someone that supports you, that's secure. Microsoft back in the news today. I think they were in the news yesterday. Today they're in the news for some good stuff. Yesterday I think they were in the news for 5 0-day exploits out there. Wow. It's just Microsoft. It's a huge target, and they're always going to have vulnerabilities coming at them. The nice thing about this is, again, it goes back to what I've been talking about for a month now. COVID-19 is the target that these bad guys are going to use. This is the subject of most attacks now. This is the subject of almost all phishing attacks. This is the subject of a lot of just the social engineering that's going on right now is centered around COVID-19. So we see a lot of stuff. One of the things Microsoft is doing, and again, this will be a good link for you. Link you're going to want to get is in this article. And again, this is from Cyber Social. Again, they're Cyber Hacker News. But they've opened up. So, okay, let's back up a little bit. When you install Microsoft on your endpoint, on your workstation, on your laptop, on your whatever, there's that option. Do you want to share your data with Microsoft? And a lot of people in security say no. Heck no, I'm not going to. But generally people say yes, and they send that information back to Microsoft. So Microsoft has this huge amount of data that they're able to go through and source it for intelligence. So when they see stuff like these phishing campaigns that are coming through on COVID-19, what they're able to do is build a database, build information around it. So what they've done in the COVID-19 case is they've made all of that intelligence open source. So there's the link in the article that I'll provide a link, and in the article you'll read that, and it's going to provide a link to Microsoft's open source database or data source where you can check out more of this information about COVID-19, the open source intelligence that Microsoft's gathering. You've got to remember, millions of endpoints around the world, maybe even, I don't know, dare I say billions? I don't know. Microsoft's everywhere. That's why they're generally more vulnerable to attacks than most people. That's why that's why you see a lot of attacks. But in this case, all that information is going back to Microsoft. They're culling through it. They're creating intelligence out of it, and they're making it available to the open source community. So you can go out there, check it out. What they're saying in this major announcements, it'll help onlookers raise awareness of the attacker's shift in techniques, how to spot them, and how to enable custom hunting. Cyber hunting is big. It's another big field in security right now. The release includes files, hash indicators related to email-based attachments, identifies it as malicious COVID-19 lure. A quote from them is, "This is a time-limited feed. We're maintaining this feed through the peak of the outbreak to help organizations focus on recovery." It's a good chance if you need to work in open source, you got to get some open source information. So intelligence, Microsoft, a giant in the industry, is providing that. Checkpoint. This is funny because this is not really, it doesn't impact Checkpoint. This is a vulnerability that impacts Checkpoint, but there was a memory corruption hole in Linux. Checkpoint uses Linux, so they went in and they fixed it. So it's the GNU C library, and it's about single link lists, and it really leads to a memory allocation problem. It's funny. This is caused by a security hole that was uncovered through smart light bulbs, and it was a safe unlinking issue, and first it was a double link list. Now it's a single link list. But anyways, what they've done is they fixed the hole. Checkpoints went in, fixed the hole. So get patched so you don't have this problem. It's in Linux systems, not just Checkpoint, but Linux. Yes, it's derived from the Linux address space layout randomization, ASLR. Just, it's nice to see people doing the right thing. Zoom is back in the news, but not for anything Zoom did. Again, the Microsoft case, when you're a big target like Zoom is now, huge increase in use, you become a target. So what's happened is the Devil Shadow botnet has created some hidden installers inside of Zoom. So it's like a Trojan. If we know Trojan is overt and a covert program, the Zoom installer is still there. So what they've done is they packaged the Zoom installer with the Devil Shadow botnet software. So when you install Zoom, it's going to say, hey, do you want to install this? You're going to click yes, and it's going to install both Zoom and this hidden fake botnet installer. This is going to mean this could be anyone. This could be any software application you can think of. When you don't get it from a trusted source, and generally that's a manufacturer source, the folks that made it, it's quite possible and probably likely that it has been compromised. Again, the reason I don't say I don't get drivers from weird sites. I don't get software from weird sites. Back to the old adage that if you're getting it for free, or nothing's for free, you're paying for it somehow. Zoom is free. Go to the Zoom site. Go to the official Zoom site and get it there. Don't get it from a weird third party. It's probably loaded with malware. And in this case, we're seeing it. The article goes through a ton of detail on what's going on. Yeah, it shows the breakdown. A Zoom installer, Zap is Devil Shadow EXE, and Zoom installer Legit EXE are all kind of packaged in the one they lay out in the article. Definitely, it's ugly stuff. So get your stuff from a trusted source. Don't try to get paid stuff for free, because eventually you're going to pay for it somehow. That's just the way it is. And last on our rundown of what's going on for today. Obviously, this is as of 7:15-ish this morning, 7 o'clock this morning. News comes out all day. Firebase is being used by malicious actors, generally for social engineering, to get through defenses. So this is from Threat Post. I think Cyber Labs did the work. And what they're doing is they're storing their malicious code. They're storing their web pages on Google's Firebase. And because Google Firebase is trusted, it's going to get by a lot of protections on networks. It's just smart. I can't say that the bad folks are not smart, but who is this quote for? Carl Singer, Senior Security Research Manager at Spider Labs. He says, since it's using Google Cloud Storage, credential capturing web pages hosted on the service are more likely to make it through security protections like secure email gateways due to the reputation of Google and the large amount of valid users. He goes on to say, the use of cloud infrastructure is rising among cybercriminals in order to capitalize on the reputation and the valid uses of those services. They tend not to be immediately flagged by security control just due to the URL. So, if you've ever seen this, if you've ever, in a micro sense, if you try to send email to someone and it gets caught by their spam filter, that's essentially what's going on with some of these phishing campaigns. If you're not coming from a trusted source. A lot of times these protective gateways, these protections along the way, they're keeping your malware from getting through, your evil content from getting through to your target victim. So what the bad folks are doing now is they're putting their content on a trusted source, Google, Amazon, Azure, and then that sometimes is slipping through the defenses because it's coming through as Google content, or it's coming through as Microsoft or AWS content. So just, every time we make a step forward, the bad guy makes a step forward. We make a step forward, they make a step forward. Again, we'll be here for a while. If you come into this field, you'll be employed forever, probably, and you'll be learning forever because it's new stuff all the dang time. What do we got for the weird holiday? The weird holiday for today. It is World Goth Day. Always held on May 22nd. Maybe black is not your color. I don't know. But Goth Day. We're saying we don't know who created this. Looks like. Anyone that's into the goth subculture now, they have a day to celebrate it. Go out and embrace your inner goth today is what's touted for this day. It's not just about wearing black that makes you goth. The goth culture is expressed in fashion, music, art, and in some degree behaviors. That's from our write-up on Goth Day. Originated in the United Kingdom in 2009, quickly spread, and is now celebrated in many countries around the world. The website here is saying the song of the day, Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones. So World Goth Day. That's the day of the day. So in the slide deck today, we are wrapping up Domain 1. So there are a few things left. We're going to talk about 0 day yet again because CompTIA wants to talk about 0 day yet again. We're going to talk about training your users. We're going to talk about key management, high level key and certificate management, why it can go bad. And I think just wrap it up. Do want to say one last shout for Trivia Night tonight. It's fun. 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Show up. We use Socrative. You don't have to have a Socrative account. You can join from your web browser without creating an account. You need the room name. You need a name you're going to play on. Look at the rules at cyber-recon.com/trivia. Tells you everything you need to know. The live stream, you want to watch the live stream because when we do the movie, you can't see the movies on Socrative. So you have to watch the movie clips on the live stream. And obviously you want to see the live stream. That's where the fun is going on. That's where you'll see the smack talking by folks. That's why where you'll see a lot of the stuff going on. So Trivia Night is tonight. It'll be a fun time. It will be a good show tonight. And again, former paratrooper, I gotta say Mike Bravo out there, still wearing the maroon beret, still hold the title. Can you dethrone Mike Bravo? We'll see. So heck, stick around. We'll come back. We'll talk about last three or four topics. I really don't want to count 0 day because we've talked about that already. Come back after the intro. We'll jump into the last 3 or 4 things in Domain 1, and we'll close out for the day. Get ready for a happy Friday, right? Hey, yay! It's happy Friday. So, be back in just a second. And we're back. Jim with Cyber-Recon here to finish up Domain 1 in Security Plus. We're going to cover the last few things. We're talking about proper key management at a high level, key and certificate management. We're going to talk about user training. We're going to talk about vulnerable business processes. So let's jump in to your slide deck for the day. Look at that. Our slide deck, not quite ready. So let's jump into the slide deck for today. That's where we're at. So today we're finishing up domain 1. This is the last part of 1.6. We're talking about comparing and contrasting types of attacks, the untrained users, vulnerable business processes. We also threw into this one 0-day yet again, and we threw in key management and certificate management. So without further ado, let's jump in there. As we know, if we've been anywhere but under a rock for the last 5 or 10 years, we know that the untrained user is the bad guy's number one way into your network. So organizations' biggest risk is the untrained user. They've got credentials, they've got permissions, they know how things are laid out. If you don't train them, they may make mistakes. And mistakes and errors increase your vulnerabilities. The old joke is amongst leadership is we're worried about training our end users because if we train them, they'll leave. And then the other leader in the joke would say, well, the downside to that is if we don't train them and they stay. Obviously, we have to train our users. Untrained users can bypass security controls, and they do it on accident. They don't mean to do it. They click on links that come through phishing. They turn off security controls. They create backdoors around things like proxies. They generally, if they're untrained, they're not malicious in their attempts. They just don't know better. So we have to train them. Training should be rooted in your policies and standards because it's going to give you lineage back to them. It's going to give you the way to build your training program around organizational direction. That's what we want to do. And develop your program over time. If you're coming in new, you don't have a program, and it's weird, there are organizations out there, there are big organizations out there that don't have a training program. Start with that initial training. Build an annual training and then training that's supplemented as needed, like when your users do the wrong thing. Have them go through remedial training. And then create role-based training. Have special training for security admins, server admins, network admins, remote users, mobile users, and document the training. Make sure your training is documented and you keep records. That way you know when people go through specific training, when people need to renew their training, and if something should go terribly bad and you think there is a malicious user that's doing malicious things on your network, it's a legal protection you have that the user has gone through training and you've documented that they knew better and they still did the wrong thing. Not the first place you want to go. You don't want to start out with the intent of, throwing your users in jail or whatever, like any of that stuff. But you want to have those protections just in case you need them for the small percentage that are going to be malicious intentionally. The other thing we talk about is vulnerable business processes. We build processes so that things can be repeatable. We build manual processes, we can test them, and then we can create an automated process around that. The problem is if that initial process is bad, if that initial process has vulnerabilities in it, the automation is going to make those vulnerabilities just faster. If you're doing something like creating accounts based on a bad account to start with, when you automate that, it's just going to be faster. It's going to happen more often. And we see this, and it's in business processes normally. Obviously, as you build your security processes, you want to watch for this as well, because there's technically business processes. And we think about things like separations of duties and forced vacations. They can help this. We think of a business process. One of the most classic examples of this is the person that writes the checks should not be the same person that signs the checks, or maybe shouldn't be the first person that takes care of the bank account when it comes in, that balances the checkbook. The theory there is the person writing the check could write themselves a check, and then when the statement comes in, they can just forget to balance that part out or not note that they wrote themselves a check. And again, same thing as if you write the check and you can't sign it, it requires two people collusion to get through that. That's just an example. That's the one we use a lot of times for separations of duty and collusion. But that's just business processes. Everything an organization does should be wrapped up in a business process. You should be able to do things in a repeatable fashion, and those are usually captured in a business process. We want to make sure that those business processes aren't vulnerable, so we have to look at those. Zero day, I'm not going to say much about zero day. I'll have Mako throw a link up there to the 0 day video. It just means that there's a system or piece of software that has a vulnerability and there's no patch available for it yet. We see this all the time. The worst part about it, there's no way to fix it. So we have to build mitigations around it. And sometimes we don't even know that the vulnerability is there. That's the even worse part. So 0 days are bad. And then last is improper key and certificate management. Certificates are commonly used to transport cryptographic keys, our security keys, our encryption keys, back and forth. If we have improper management of certificates and keys, it obviously can lead to vulnerabilities. We want to validate that certificates are not compromised and they're not expired. So we want to make sure that the keys we're using, the certificates, we want to make sure the certificates we're using are valid and they're not compromised. So we want to check things like the certificate revocation list, or CRL, before we use certificates. And we wouldn't do that manually. That's not a manual process. That's built into the software. That's built into our applications when we build our applications. So we want to make sure that that's built in. So before we use a key, before we use a certificate, we want to check this CRL to make sure that that's still a valid key. It hasn't been compromised and it hasn't been expired. So if you're still here, thank you for staying. Thank you for increasing your security knowledge and contributing to the community. It's a wonderful place to be. I do ask, like I do every day, like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell over there to be notified when new content comes out. Know that we have Trivia Night coming up. That's just, that's one of the fun things we do. Share with your friends. And as I always say, we will see you next time, and be safe out there.